Hi, I am Samuel Vine, and welcome to my first actual build overview for Star Trek Online. This is the Kelvin Vengeance Dreadnought Cruiser, and I am going to be going over my ETM build that has hit 1.356 million DPS in ISE solo. To give a quick overview, this is a rainbow crate build. So I am using all universal consoles, and I am using a variety of weapon flavors to coordinate with the personal space trait Twinkling Lights that you can get from the Winter Store. So first things first, let's go over the weapons. First, I'm running basically what I have access to, which at the moment is the Advanced Thoron Infused Polaron Beam Array. This is from the Delta Alliance Reputation. And I have the Terran Task Force Disruptor dual heavy cannons from the Terran Reputation. Then I'm using for my torpedo the spatial torpedo launcher from the Lobi store. This is the one of the missiles that has a 2 second activation or recharge time, I should say. And I'm also using the Romulan plasma dual cannons instead of dual heavy cannons because the power draw is less and their weapon firing cycles are a little bit faster. Then I'm also running the Hyper Dual Refracting Tetragon Beam Bank from the Nukara Reputation. And in my aft weapons, I am running the Lobi Store's Omnidirectional Bowel Linked Sentry Anti-Proton Beam. Again, that's from the Lobi Store. And I have the Advanced Inhibiting Phaser Heavy Turret. This is from the Gamma Reputation, and I'm using the Phaser variety. This one is available in both Phaser and Polaron. And then last but not least, I have the omnidirectional Poffin proton beam array. This is the must-have on pretty much every build, and I am using both beam fire at will and cannon scatter volley, so I will be able to get use out of this proc as often as possible because it is affected by both SPA and CSV. Now for my devices, I have the SS Antares for its buffs and also for its recharge to Universal Console cooldowns. Then I'm also using the Temporal Negotiator because I have access to it. It gives me some extra Bridge Officer recharge reduction. Then the Subspace Field Modulator for some extra defense. Civ skill, it gives me some damage resistance and some defense rating. It's not the most impactful, but it's what I have access to at the moment. Then the red matter capacitor, you can change this one again, but I am terrible at using consumable devices, so I use this for some extra help. And then also, I recently started using the Deuterium Surplus, which unfortunately is a consumable device. So I'm going to be terrible at keeping it stocked regularly, but it is helpful for getting from place to place because, as Spencer and others have said, this is basically an evasive maneuvers in a can. So it is helpful. I just may not always use it. So onto my consoles. For the tactical slots, I am running the Vovin console, Subspace Fracture Tunneling Field, Agony Redistributor from the Adamant, the Microquantum Torpedoes Phalanx Array from the Achilles, Evolve from the GOM 2, which was the 2026 Summer Event Ship. Then I have in science slots Temporal Disorder, which was an event console that I believe is in MUDs now, and the Gemini device from the Premonition. This is probably this is one of my highest damage dealing consoles, but when I get access to some new toys from the event campaign this year, I may be changing this one out because it does slow my ship down every time I activate it. Then I'm also running the Cutting Tractor Beam. This one gives a passive effect that says activating a universal console, which is all of my consoles, adds 10% bonus damage to other universal consoles for 25 seconds, and stacks up to 10 times. Since most of my abilities, my console abilities, are damage dealers, this is actually a surprising boost for my DPS. Then I'm also running the Tracer Payloads device from the Echelon. The passive is not really helpful. I'm never leaving combat in ISE, but it does increase my critical hit chance, which is helpful, especially since it can stack up to 15 times for a total of 15% crit chance. Then I'm also running the Krenim Chronophage. This is from a lockbox, and you can pick it up on the exchange pretty cheap. Then I have the Bioelectrical Wave Capacitor. This is the console from the Connie 3 promo ship. I picked this as last year's event campaign reward, and honestly, I use it on all of my large ships. Not only is it a decent damage dealer, but while the wave is active and while I'm inside the wave, I gain a massive boost to my power levels, to my turn rate, and to my flight speed. So I always use this and the Achilles console because it has a similar effect, increasing my turn rate and flight speed. Sometimes having both of them active at the same time can be a bit much for me to handle just out of practice, but it's still very beneficial for these large and slow ships. And I'm also running You Are Dismissed, again from the lockbox, and can be picked up cheap on the exchange. This is a very, very high damage dealer, and doesn't really need any additional explanation, although it can trigger Proton Crush for some extra damage boost. And I'm also running Fleet Power Network Array from the Awani and the C-Store. This one is the console that adds energy weapon haste based on Ox Power. So that one is a must-have for energy weapon builds, including ETM ones like mine. And then I have Hunting Pack Escorts. This is the Birds of Prey summons that you get from the Cavort, which was the recent Season 36 event ship that was given out for free. And lastly, I am also running in my hangar bay the Elite Type 7 shuttlecraft. This one is also a no-brainer. I use it on all of my builds that have a hangar bay because of the debuff that these fighters can provide. So next, I want to go over my traits real quick. My personal space traits, I'll just go over them briefly. A Good Day to Die, Fragment of AI Tech, Brain Shield Tunneling, Intelligence Agent Attaché, and since I have a lot of uncommon triggers, I'm also running Particle Manipulator so that all of my exotic abilities, which is most of my uncommon triggers, gain additional crit chance and crit severity. And I'm also running Terran Targeting Systems for the crit severity boost, Boimler effect for Bridge Officer cooldowns, Unconventional Systems, or Uncon, to recharge my universal consoles, Twinkling Lights so that I can get additional debuff to my enemies when using multiple damage types, and Ethereal Beam enhancements. Now, the proton damage that this does is pretty minuscule, but it does give me a maximum of 15% Cap 1 damage to all of my energy weapons. And I've actually found that for what I have access to right now, that 15% stack is actually pretty helpful. Now, my Starship traits. I am running ETM, aka Entwined Tactical Matrices. This one activates all of my different firing modes in tandem with each other. So when I activate Torpedo Spread, I get Fire at Will 1 and Scatter Volley 1. And when I activate either Fire at Will or Scatter Volley, I also get a Torpedo Spread 1. And you can see on my tray here, I am running Scatter Volley, Fire at Will, and Torpedo Spread. So they are triggering each other quite often. and I'm able to keep either full or almost full uptime on everything. Next, I'm running Universal Designs from the Crossfield Refit, which was another one of my event campaign reward picks. Then I have To Hell With Our Orders, or as I like to call it, THWOO. This is from the T6 Noble remaster that was released for free as an event ship recently in 2026. For lack of better options that I have access to at the moment, I'm running Advanced Precision Guided Munitions. This is from the Habit in the C store, I believe. This one just gives me extra torpedo damage and then additional torpedo damage if my target has facing shields that are low. Emergency weapon cycle for weapon power cost reduction and weapon haste. And since I have exotic and temporal up abilities on this build, I'm also running temporal tunneling for weapon cycle haste. Lastly, I have supercharged weapons. Since I'm running a missile in my forward torpedo slot, I get stack of supercharged for my energy weapons very, very, very frequently, and that has been a very big help for my crit chance, severity, and Cat 1 damage. Space Reputation, I'm running Tyler's Duality for the crit chance, Precision for the crit chance, Advanced Targeting System for crit severity, and since I'm running both a Hangar Bay and Fleet Power Network Array, I'm also running Auxiliary Power Configuration Offense. This gives me, with my current setup, a minimum of 5.5% bonus Cat 2 all damage, and this will increase as my auxiliary power levels increase. And last but not least, Radiant Detonation Matrix. Honestly, I used to never use this, but Cheops showed how effective this can be on builds with high weapon haste. So I've started using it, and honestly, I really love it. And then last for my traits is my active space reputation. I'm running all the offensive ones: Anti-Time Entanglement Singularity, Tethered Non-Baryonic Asteroid, Force Challenge, and Refracting Tetryon Cascade. All of those do damage directly, and even though they're only up once every 5 minutes, so I can only use them once in an ISE, they're still helpful. And next, I'll go over my Bridge Officer stations really quickly. I'm using the 3 Intel Uncon triggers and emergency power to weapons. Then I have my 2 temporal skills as Uncon triggers, chronometric inversion field, and Heisenberg amplifier. Gravity well, duh. Scramble sensors, jam targeting sensors, and tractor beam. So I have a total of 3, 6, 7, 8, 9 Uncon triggers on this build. And then again, I have Scatter Volley 2, Beam Fire at Will 2, and Torpedo Spread 1. So I am constantly having all of my weapons under a firing mode of some kind. And that's the main point of this build. I wanted to be able to still have the frontal firing power of the dual cannons whilst having some of the versatility of beams, and ETM was the way to do that. And I've been able to hit 1.35 mil DPS in an ISE solo. And here in the next 2 seconds, I'll actually be showing that run with my parse being showed up on the screen the entire duration of the fight. Thank you very much and enjoy.